So obtaining your tier sets and tier set bonuses have pretty much always been a very important part of endgame gearing in World of Warcraft, but going into Midnight, it may be even more important to very quickly get your 4-set bonus because of some of the new systems added with this expansion. So in this video, I want to go over why that's so important, and I want to go over every way to obtain tier sets in Season 1, because there are actually a lot of different ways to obtain these tier sets, and no matter what endgame content you partake in, whether it be only delves and open world content, whether it be only Mythic Plus, whether it be all the way up to Mythic rating, whether it even be PvP, getting these tier sets are incredibly important, both for power and for unlocking the appearances, but also obtaining these tier sets can even be good for gearing up in general, because you'll even be able to much more readily start obtaining more catalyst charges to even catalyze offset pieces for their stat weights. Now, I think the biggest change to obtaining tier sets going into Midnight is the new achievement for obtaining your first 4 sets on that character, because there is a new achievement called Midnight Season 1 Catalyst Unbound that when you obtain your 4-set bonus on that character, you will now have a chance to obtain more catalyst charges for defeating raid bosses, completing Mythic Plus runs, completing Bountiful Delves, or completing raided PvP. So pretty much any endgame content you do after you get this achievement can just give you another catalyst charge. Now, at a baseline, this means that anytime you get an upgrade for a tier piece slot, you can then catalyze that much more easily to always be able to use your upgrades. Because in previous seasons with the catalyst, when you only had a certain amount of charges, you would realistically be saving all of this gear in your bags because you don't know if you wanted to use the catalyst on that. Especially if you're an endgame player, you would usually end up not using the catalyst after you had your 4-set until you got a myth piece. But because you can now infinitely get more catalyst charges, you're much more able to freely use these catalyst charges on not only using the upgrades you get, but also using the catalyst on off pieces. So as you may know, every new class set that has the tier sets within them have 8 different pieces. Now, all of those 8 different pieces actually have their own stat weights. So if you're, say, playing a paladin and you use your catalyst on, say, a belt, that belt will always be the same stat weights because it's a specific item in that class set. Now, that stat weight may be really good for your spec or for your class. For instance, a bunch of the characters I've been playing in the endgame right now, if I go and look at their best in slot tier list, most of them will have some item that wants you to use the catalyst on any piece of gear you get for that slot to turn it into one of these offset class pieces, just because these stat weights on it are super good for whatever spec you're playing. So you could potentially be having like a best in slot piece as an off piece in that class set that now you can freely use catalyst charges on pretty much whenever you want. This wasn't a thing that was super common in previous seasons because you had a limited amount of catalyst charges. So usually, even if you went to the best in slot list, they wouldn't even list that because it wasn't really worth using a catalyst charge on it. Now you'll be able to do this. But then that begs the question, how do you actually go about getting your tier sets so you can unlock this achievement to get your infinite catalyst charges? Well, there's actually a handful of ways to get tier sets in this season. First off, you obviously have your raid bosses. Most of the raid bosses within Season 1 can drop a tier token. Now, all but the final bosses drop tier tokens that are for a specific slot and are for specific classes. So if you go and defeat a raid boss, let's say an LFR, there won't always be a tier token that drops for your class. It has to be a tier token that's for your class, and that will be for a specific armor piece. But when you get to the end boss of a tier, those will always have a curio that can be used for any class for any piece. So more specifically, going and defeating Laura, you can get a chiming void curio, which again can be used by any class and for any piece of tier that you want. And because all of the raids and all of the raid difficulties are already released, even going and just running through all of your LFR queues pretty quickly get you some tier sets. Now, obviously you're doing LFR and everybody's needing on everything they can use, so you don't necessarily have the best chance to always get something, but this will just give you a ton of additional chances at tier set tokens. So if you don't have your 4-set yet, I would always recommend go and at least do all of your LFR runs for that week, because those are just a ton one have very easy chances at getting more tier set tokens. And then obviously you have all the other difficulties of rating. You have your normal, your heroic, your mythic. All of those can obviously still drop the same tier tokens, just as higher eye level pieces. And also, if you're not a big raider, but you still do group content, I would at least recommend you go and pug the Dream Rift raid. This is a one boss raid. The boss is generally pretty simple. And even if you get a group that can't really complete it, you didn't spend a ton of time going and setting up the group and then maybe defeating like the first boss and not being able to defeat any more bosses or anything like that. So you can pretty easily go pug normal and heroic versions of the Dream Rift boss. And it's not too difficult, and that will just give you more chances at tier pieces, or more specifically tier piece tokens. Now, outside of defeating any of the raid bosses like we just went over, or using the catalyst, you pretty much only have one other option, and that is through the Great Vault. Now, in the Great Vault, any content you're doing, whether it be outdoor content, whether it be raiding, whether it be Mythic Plus, or even just Mythic Zero dungeons, any of those vault slots can be a tier piece. Even if you just do LFR, you could still have a tier piece appear in the Great Vault. Even if you just do like praise in the open world, you can still get a tier piece in that vault as well. So if you're still looking for tier pieces, I would recommend filling up as many slots of your vault as you possibly can, because again, any of those slots can have a tier piece as an option in them. The really big difference is going to be what upgrade track or item level that tier piece will be on. If you go and complete Mythic raid bosses and you get a tier piece as an option there, it'll be on the Myth track. If you go and complete tier 10 or above Mythic Plus runs and you get a tier set as an option there, it'll be on the Myth track. If you go and say complete tier 8 or above Bountiful Delves, you can get a hero track piece on that slot. But just filling up your Great Vault to be able to have as many options as possible is your best bet at getting even more tier pieces. But there is also an additional way to get some early catalyst charges to allow you to get your 4 set much more easily or much more quickly. And that's because there is an achievement for 3 of the pieces of endgame content that if you complete it, it will just give you another catalyst charge. And this will be for earning a 1600 rating in any PvP. So I think this is pretty much anything. I think this can be like 2s arenas, 3s arenas, 5s. This can also be rated battlegrounds. This can also be solo shuffle. So if you're a PvP player, you could probably pretty easily get a catalyst charge. Then it's earning 2000 as a Mythic Plus rating. Now this isn't as bad as you would think. I think in general you need like 5 dungeons done on a 10, and then the rest you can do on like 8 or 9s. It will also depend on how well you do that dungeon. So if you get a dungeon completed with a +3, it'll give more rating. But in general, it's doing most dungeons at around a 10 key. So getting that 2+ Mythic Plus rating will give you another, and then defeating the final boss on the March of Caldenas raid, which is Laura, on heroic or mythic difficulty, which is by far the hardest out of any of these, because Laura even on heroic is actually really difficult. So that one is by far the hardest. So I would definitely recommend, if you're trying to get your tier set still, to focus on doing your Mythic Plus and getting that rating, or doing your PvP if you're a PvP player. And again, doing any of those will give you another catalyst charge. You could do all 3, but you'll probably already have your tier set if you're getting to that point. And then remember, on top of all of this, you will have just your base catalyst charges that you get a new catalyst charge every 2 weeks, I'm pretty sure. The first week we got one, and then after that it's every 2 weeks. And also keep in mind, you can only hold 8 catalyst charges at a time. So if you're getting up to that, make sure to go use one. If you have any piece of gear you can even use it on. And if I'm not mistaken, when this video releases, you will have 3 catalyst charges at a baseline. So realistically, you just have to go get any other tier piece or get any other catalyst charge through any of these achievements, and you'll be able to very easily get your 4 set and then just start earning infinite catalyst charges. But that's actually not all, because there's actually some other things you can do. Get additional cosmetic appearances for all of your tier sets for the entirety of your account. Because I think a big part of earning your whole class set for a lot of players of World of Warcraft is to get their appearances. There's obviously recolors for all of the different difficulties, but you may have also noticed, if you're a newer player, that the highest difficulty, so the Mythic tier set, or I guess the Gladiator armor for PvP, always have more animations on them. It's usually the helmet and the shoulders will usually have some bigger glow or special effect on them that's only from the highest difficulty usually, but you can actually get this additional effects on all of the other colors of the class sets by getting a specific achievement. So doing one of these three things will earn you a Gleaming Sun mode, which will unlock these additional appearances for all of the class sets, no matter what difficulty they're on or which one of the recolors they are. And earning just one of these Gleaming Sun modes will unlock it for the entirety of your warband. So you only need to do this on one character, and then any one of these tier sets you go earn will have the additional effects on them. So they will have the Mythic or Gladiator effects. So you either defeat the final boss, so Laura, on Mythic difficulty, which basically nobody's doing right now, or you can go get a 2500 rating in Mythic Plus, which is significantly easier, or you can go earn the rank of Elite in Midnight Season 1 PvP. Now, if you're a PvP player, getting Elite is probably going to be the easiest. And if you're a more PvE focused player, the 2500 is definitely going to be easier. Even some of the better guilds in the world can't go complete Laura on Mythic right now. That boss is ridiculously hard. So go do your Mythic Plus or go get higher rated in PvP, and you can go and get your Gleaming Sun mode, which will just allow you to have a lot cooler transmog from any of the class sets. Also, keep in mind, this won't be on the base class set. If you just go choose the set through transmogging, you have to go to the specific pieces, and there will be two of that same armor piece in your transmog selection, one of which will have the additional effects and animations on them. The other one will just be the base one. So also keep that in mind. And also, after you get this, you still have to unlock that appearance for that armor set. But once you unlock it, those specific class set pieces that can have the additional animations, you will have the option for that. But that's pretty much everything you'll need to know about earning your tier sets or class sets for Midnight Season 1. So whether you want to earn these just for power, or whether you want to just go through and earn as many of the tier sets as you can for cosmetics, all the information you're going to need is in this video. But that's all I want to go over, so thanks for watching.